My fighter, I need to reframe something for you right now, because the way you have been seeing this season of your life is not the way it actually is, and the difference between your current perspective and the true picture of what is happening is so significant that it changes everything about how you walk forward from this moment. I am not asking you to pretend that difficulty is not there. I am not going to tell you that faith means denying the reality of what you are experiencing. But I'm going to show you a different way of reading the same situation, a way of seeing it that is actually more accurate, more complete, and more aligned with what is truly happening in your life right now than the interpretation you have been carrying. You have been looking at this season as if it were evidence of failure, as if the difficulty you are wading through is a sign that something went wrong, that the path collapsed somewhere behind you, that the distance between where you are and where you need to be has become impossible to cross. You have been measuring the weight you carry against the visible supply of your own strength, and the math has not been working in your favor. And so you have started to wonder things you were never supposed to wonder. You have started to entertain thoughts that the enemy planted specifically to get you to stop moving. And I need you to hear something before you take another step. Those thoughts aren't the truth of your situation, and they are not the truth of what I see when I look at you. And if you will stay with me through everything I am about to say, you are going to see your situation through entirely different eyes before we are done. Let me start with what I actually see when I look at you. I see someone who has been carrying more than most people could carry and who is still standing. I see someone who has been walking through terrain that would have broken others and who has not broken. I see someone who has cried in the dark and gotten up in the morning and kept going. Someone who has prayed prayers that felt like they were bouncing off the ceiling and kept praying anyway. Someone who has faced disappointment after disappointment and refused, stubbornly, sometimes tearfully, to let go of what they believe. Do you understand what I am looking at when I see all of that? I am looking at a fighter. I am looking at someone with more genuine strength in them than they have ever fully understood. And I need you to see yourself that way before we go any further, because the false image you have been carrying of yourself as someone who is losing this battle is one of the most damaging lies that has been spoken against you, and it is time for it to be replaced with the truth. The truth is that you are not losing. The truth is that you are fighting, and fighting well, and the outcome of this fight was decided before it ever started, and the decision was made in your favor by the one who has never lost a fight and who is standing on your side of this one. I want to be clear about what it means that I'm on your side, because I think sometimes that phrase gets said so often that it becomes familiar in a way that drains it of its actual weight. So let me tell you concretely what it means. When I say I am on your side of this fight, I mean that the full, unlimited, unconstrained capacity of the God who spoke the universe into existence is deployed on your behalf in your current situation. I mean that the intelligence that designed every living system, that holds every galaxy in its place, that knows the number of hairs on your head and the depth of every fear you have never spoken aloud, is actively engaged in the specific circumstances of your specific life. I mean that the love that drove me to the most costly thing ever done in the history of creation is the same love that is motivating every act on your behalf right now. And that love does not cool, does not waver, does not find a point at which the cost becomes too high and decide to step back. That is who is on your side. That is what it means, and that changes the math. Whatever you have been calculating about the size of your problem versus the size of your resources, the calculation is wrong because you have not been factoring me in correctly. Your problem is real. Your resources on their own may genuinely be insufficient. But I am not one item on a list of your resources. I am the source from which every resource flows, and the source is without ceiling, without depletion, without limit, and without the slightest concern that what you are facing might be more than can be handled. Nothing you are facing is more than can be handled by the one who is handling it on your behalf. Let me tell you what I know about the battle you are in. I know exactly what you are facing. Not in a general way, not as a category of human difficulty that I am familiar with in the abstract. I know the specific shape of the specific thing that has been pressing down on you. I know the particular weight of the particular burden that has been making every day heavier than the last. I know the thoughts that come at you in the quiet moments, the fears that activate in the dark, the weariness that has been building over time until it has reached the point where even the thought of continuing feels like a weight you cannot lift. I see all of it. Nothing about your situation is hidden from me. Not the depth of the struggle, not the length of the hard season, not the cost it has extracted from you in terms of energy and hope and simple vitality. And I know things about your situation that you cannot see from where you are standing, because your view is limited to the visible, the surface of what is happening in the natural, and mine extends through every dimension of the battle, including the dimensions that are completely invisible to your physical eyes. I see what is happening in the unseen realm on your behalf. I see the positions that have been taken, the arrangements that have been made, the things that have been set in motion in the spirit that will become visible in the natural at the right moment. I see the full story of your situation, not just the chapter you are currently living through. And when I look at the full story, I see something very different from what you see when you look at the chapter you are in. What I see is a story that is heading somewhere specific, somewhere good, somewhere that justifies every hard mile of the road that is required to get there. Now, I want to talk to you about something that the enemy does not want you to understand, because understanding it would completely change the way you experience what you are going through. He wants you to believe that the level of resistance you are facing is a sign that things are going wrong, that the intensity of the opposition is evidence that you have somehow gotten off track or lost the favor that once covered you. He wants you to interpret the difficulty as abandonment, to feel the weight of the fight as evidence that you are fighting alone, and he wants that misinterpretation to be the thing that finally makes you decide to put down your faith and stop. But here is the truth about resistance. The level of opposition that is arrayed against a life is a direct reflection of the significance of what that life is meant to carry. The enemy does not waste his strongest forces on targets that pose no threat to his plans. He does not deploy his most relentless strategies against people who are going nowhere significant. The intensity of what you are facing is not evidence that something has gone wrong. It is evidence of something very specific, that what is on the other side of this battle is significant enough that the enemy has decided he needs to put everything he has into stopping you from getting there. You are not being attacked because you are losing. You are being attacked because you are a threat, and I need you to hold on to that truth, because it is not just comfort. It is a strategic reality that changes how you fight. When you know why the fight is this intense, you stop interpreting the intensity as a sign that you should stop, and you start interpreting it as a signal that you should press harder. When you understand that the resistance is proportional to what is on the other side, you stop being terrorized by the size of the battle, and you start being encouraged by it, because a battle this significant means a breakthrough. This significant is within reach. The enemy does not deploy this level of opposition against ordinary ground. He deploys it against territory that has extraordinary value, and you are standing on extraordinary territory. Your life, your story, your destiny, the impact you were created to carry into the world, all of it has extraordinary value, and he knows it, even if you do not fully know it yet. The fight is real. I am not going to minimize it. The weight you carry is genuine. The weariness is not imaginary. The cost of this season has been real, and I honor that cost. but the fight is also winnable, and it is more than winnable. The outcome has already been settled, not by the circumstances, not by what either side in this fight is capable of in the natural, by me. And what I have settled is that this does not end in your defeat. What I have settled is that the purposes I have for your life are not going to be stopped by the opposition that is trying to prevent them. What I have settled is that every promise I have spoken over your life is going to come to pass, that every plan I have designed for you is going to be fulfilled, that the story I am writing through your life is going to end exactly the way I intended it to end when I created you. I have decided it, and my decisions about the lives of my children are not subject to reversal by any force that exists. Let me go deeper into what I know about you, because I think you have been operating with a limited understanding of your own strength, and I want to correct that. You have been through things before this, hard things, seasons that felt impossible at the time, moments when you were sure the ground was going to give way beneath you, losses that you could not see past, doors that closed in your face in ways that felt final and devastating, disappointments that recalibrated everything you thought you could count on. You have been through versions of hard that you were not sure you would survive, and you survived them. Not because they were not as hard as they felt, they were as hard as they felt, but because something in you, something that I placed there, refused to let the hard thing be the end of the story. There is a tenacity in you that did not come from your upbringing or your personality or any natural quality that you cultivated through your own effort. It came from me. I put it there, and it has carried you through things that should have stopped you. I want you to look at those previous seasons not just as things you made it through, but as evidence of something about who you are. Every season you survived built something in you. Every battle you endured deposited something. Every time you held on through something that should have made you let go, the very act of holding on strengthened the grip. The person standing at the beginning of this current hard season is not the same person who stood at the beginning of the previous hard season, because every hard season you have walked through with me has made you more of who you were created to be, more rooted, more tested, more certain of what you stand on, more capable of carrying what needs to be carried, and walking what needs to be walked, and enduring what needs to be endured. You are more equipped than you know, and beyond what you have already built. I am adding to you right now, through this very moment of receiving, through every prayer you offer, even from the place of exhaustion, through every moment you choose to stay in relationship with me rather than withdrawing, through every step of faith you take on the road when you cannot see where it goes. I am not just fighting for you from the outside. I am building you up from the inside, strengthening the interior of who you are, so that the person who emerges from this season is someone with capacities that exceed what went in. That is what the fire does when I am in it with you. It does not consume, it refines. It burns away what was never supposed to be there, and what is left is purer and stronger and more genuinely what it was always supposed to be than what was there before the fire came. Think for a moment about what fire actually does in the natural world. When a fire moves through a forest, the first thing it does is clear. It burns away the undergrowth, the dead wood, the accumulated debris that has been building up on the floor of the forest for years. The things that were blocking the light from reaching the ground, the things that were consuming resources that should have been going to the roots of the trees, the things that had quietly accumulated in the understory and were slowly choking the growth of what was meant to thrive. Fire clears all of that. And after the fire, the first green shoots that come up from the ground are often the healthiest and most vigorous growth that forest has ever seen, because the land has been cleared, the nutrients released, the light restored, and what grows in the aftermath grows into something more vital than what was there before. That is what is happening in your life right now. The fire of this season is clearing things, not because I am punishing you, not because I want you to suffer, because there are things that accumulated in the understory of your life that needed to be cleared for what I am planting, to have the room and the light and the nutrients it needs to grow into what I designed it to be. And what grows in the aftermath of this clearing is going to be more vital, more rooted, more genuinely fruitful than anything that was growing before the fire came through. You are not being destroyed. You are being cleared for something greater. I also want to be honest with you about the people in your circle who have been saying things that made the road harder to walk. Some of them are people you love, and that makes what they said cut deeper than it would have cut from a stranger. They looked at what you were walking through, and they offered you their conclusion, and their conclusion was something like, "This is too hard. You should give up. What you are hoping for is not realistic. What you are believing for is not going to happen." And I know those words landed. I know they found places in you that were already raw from the fight and pressed on those places. I know they raised doubts that you were already wrestling with and gave those doubts new oxygen. And I know that sometimes the most damaging voices are the ones that come from the people whose opinion of us matters most. Because when someone we love and respect looks at our situation and concludes that we should stop, it carries a weight that a stranger's skepticism does not carry. But I need you to understand something about the people who told you to stop. They do not have access to the same information I do. They cannot see what I see. They cannot know what I have planned for your life, what I have promised over your destiny, what I have already set in motion in the unseen that has not yet become visible in the natural. They are operating from what they can observe, what logic can calculate, what experience makes seem likely. And the things I do are not always observable before they happen. They do not always submit to the logic of human experience. They often exceed what careful calculation would project as possible. My track record is full of stories where the person who should have given up, who by every reasonable measure had no basis for continuing to believe, who was surrounded by people who had stopped believing on their behalf, kept going anyway. And what I did in response to that keeping going exceeded everything any reasonable observer would have predicted. So when the people who love you look at your situation with their limited view and arrive at the conclusion that you should stop, they are not being malicious. They are being human, but their perspective, however loving the intention behind it, is not the perspective that should determine your next step. My perspective is the one that should determine your next step. My word is the one that should guide your movement. My promises are the evidence you stand on when all the visible evidence seems to be pointing in a different direction. Do not let the limited view of others become the guide for your unlimited by me story. And while I am talking about the voices that have been speaking into your situation, let me also address the voice inside your own head, the one that has been using your own fatigue and your own disappointment and your own accumulated weight to argue the case against your continued faith. I know that voice. I have heard it in your private moments. The voice that says, "How much longer?" The voice that says, "What if this is not going to resolve the way I need it to?" The voice that says, "What if I have been foolish to hold on this long?" The voice that rehearses the list of things that have not happened yet and uses that list as evidence against the things I have promised. The voice that does the math of how long you have been at this and compares it to the progress you can visibly document and arrives at the conclusion that the ratio is not sustainable. That voice is not your wisdom speaking. It is your weariness speaking. And weariness is real and its voice is loud, and I am not going to dismiss it or pretend it does not have genuine things to say about how hard this season has been. But weariness does not have access to the full story. Weariness only knows what has happened so far. It does not know what is coming. It cannot see the pages that are still unwritten, and the pages that are still unwritten are the most important ones. The pages that are still coming are the ones where the things I promised become visible, where the breakthrough arrives, where the road opens up in ways that make everything you endured on the way to it make sense in retrospect, even if none of it made sense while you were enduring it. You need to keep going long enough to reach those pages. There is something specific I need to address: the physical and emotional exhaustion that has been accumulating in you, because I think it has reached a level where it needs to be addressed directly. You are tired, not just in the ordinary way that a person gets tired from a busy week and needs a full night of rest to recover. You are tired at a deeper level. The fatigue that has settled into you goes below the surface and into the bones, into the spirit, into the very will to continue. And I know that level of tired. I know what it looks like in you, and I know what it feels like from the inside, and I know that at this level of depletion, the simple instruction to keep going can feel like a demand that ignores the reality of where you actually are, like someone telling a person with a broken leg to run. The instruction may be technically accurate about what is needed, but it fails to account for the reality of what is available. So let me do something different. Let me not tell you to keep going in your own strength. Let me instead invite you to stop doing that. Stop trying to generate from an empty tank what is not there. Stop reaching for reserves you have already fully depleted. Stop white-knuckling your way through this season on the basis of discipline and determination alone, because you cannot sustain that indefinitely, and I did not design you to. And the attempt to function on your own resources when your own resources are gone is not faithfulness. It is self-sufficiency, and self-sufficiency is exactly what needs to be released so that real dependence on me can take its place. Here is what I am offering you instead. Let go. Not of the faith, not of the belief, not of the hope. Let go of the need to be the one generating it all. Let go of the weight you have been trying to carry in your own power. Open your hands, open your heart, open the deepest part of you that you usually keep guarded, and ask me to fill what is empty. And I will fill it. Not with more of the same depleted thing, with something that comes from a different source entirely. With strength that does not come from your reserves, and therefore cannot be run down by your demands. With peace that does not depend on the circumstances settling into something manageable. With the kind of sustaining grace that has carried my people through seasons of difficulty that lasted far longer than this one, and that carried them not just until it was over, but in ways that caused them to emerge from it more alive, more rooted, more deeply themselves than they were when they entered it. That is available to you right now, not eventually. Right now, as you receive these words. As you choose to open the interior of who you are and receive what I am offering, rather than insisting on generating what you no longer have to give, receive my strength. It is real, it is for you, and it is enough. Let me talk about the road itself, because I think you need a clearer picture of what you are walking on and where it is going. The road you are on was designed specifically for you, not as a test to see if you would fail, not as a punishment for something you did wrong, not as a random collection of difficult circumstances that accumulated by chance into something overwhelming. It was designed by me, with full knowledge of who you are, what you are capable of, what you need to become, what is waiting for you at the destination, and what it will take to get you there in a way that allows you to carry what the destination requires. Every road I design for someone is custom. I do not give every person the same road. I do not apply one standard difficulty to all lives equally. I design the road for each person based on where they are going and what it will take to prepare them for it. And your road has been the road it has been, as hard as it has been, for a reason that is directly related to where you are going. The destination you are headed toward, the purpose you were created to fulfill, the impact you are meant to have in the lives of the people around you and beyond them, requires a version of you that could not have been produced by an easier road. The road you are on is producing what the destination requires, specifically, precisely, intentionally. I see the whole road. You see the section you are currently standing in. And the section you are standing in right now looks, from where you stand, like a very long stretch of hard terrain with no visible end and no clear progress marker. I understand why it looks that way. I understand why the sense of not knowing how much further the hard part goes is one of the most wearing aspects of this season. Uncertainty about duration is one of the most difficult things to endure, and I am not going to pretend it is not. But from where I stand, which is the elevated view that encompasses the whole road, I see something very different. I see that you are further along than you feel like you are. I see that the section you are in, though it is long, is not without an end. I see that what waits on the other side of this section is worth every step it has taken to reach it and every step it will take to complete it. And I see that the person who walks out of this section of the road will not be the same person who walked in, because this section is doing something essential, building something permanent, producing something that no easier road could have produced. The destination is real. The end of this section is real. The breakthrough that is waiting on the other side is real. And you are closer to it than you have ever been, even in the moments when the distance feels greatest, even in the moments when the progress feels invisible, because every step you take, even the ones that feel like they are going nowhere, is a step that is accumulating toward the moment when you break through into the next season. Do not stop so close to the breakthrough. The practical shape of this fight deserves attention, because spiritual language can make the real battle feel abstract, and I want it to feel concrete. The fight you are in has specific enemies, not abstractions, specific forces that have been assigned against specific aspects of your life and your destiny and your future. Forces that know what is at stake in your story and have been working strategically to prevent it. And I want to be clear that I am not saying this to frighten you. I am saying it because knowing the enemy is real and strategic makes it possible to fight it the way it needs to be fought, which is not in panic, not in despair, not in the kind of defeat-assuming posture that says the enemy must be winning because the fight is hard. The fight is hard because the enemy is real, but the enemy is real and defeated. Those two things are not in contradiction. The enemy can be genuinely powerful in the natural and genuinely defeated in the spiritual at the same time, and my children live and operate in the spiritual, which means the defeat that has already been declared is the reality you operate from, not the power that the enemy appears to have in the natural. You do not fight from a position of hoping to win. You fight from the position of the victory that has already been secured, pressing that victory into manifestation in the natural until what has been decided in the spiritual becomes fully visible in the physical. That is the fight, and you are in it, and you are not losing it. You cannot lose the fight that I have already won on your behalf. What you can do is participate in the manifestation of the victory, and that participation requires you to keep moving, keep praying, keep believing, keep taking the next step on the road, even when you cannot see where the road goes. And that is what I am asking you to do. Not to generate a win from your own power, but to keep moving in the direction of the win that has already been secured. Every step you take on this road is a step in the direction of what has already been decided. You are not moving toward an uncertain outcome. You are moving toward a settled one, and the God who settled it is clearing the path in front of you even as you walk. Here is something practical to hold on to as you continue in this fight, because I know that spiritual truths can feel distant in the middle of a very physical, very real, very grinding battle, and I want the truth to feel close enough to actually be of use. Here is the first thing. Every time you pray, something happens that you cannot see. Not might happen, what does happen. Prayer is not sending words into a void and hoping they reach something. Prayer is communication with me, direct and immediate and received, and every prayer you pray in connection with the things I have placed on your heart generates activity in the unseen realm that will eventually produce visible results in the natural. The delay between the prayer and the visible result is not evidence that the prayer was not received. It is the time required for the work that is happening in the unseen to complete its process and become manifest in what you can see and touch and verify. I have a record of every prayer you have ever prayed. Every one. The formal ones and the informal ones. The ones you prayed with great faith and the ones you prayed through tears that were more desperation than confidence. The prayers you prayed out loud and the prayers you prayed in the privacy of your own heart. The ones that were not even fully formed into words, but were just the reaching of your spirit toward mine in the middle of something too heavy to articulate. Every single one of them reached me. Every single one generated a response. And the responses are working through a process that will manifest in ways that will make it absolutely clear when you see them that they were answers to specific prayers. So keep praying, even when it feels repetitive, even when you have said the same thing to me many times and the visible answer has not come. The prayer is not wasted, not one word of it. I hear every single prayer. I remember every prayer you have prayed. I am working on every prayer you have prayed. And the cumulative weight of the consistent, persistent, faithful prayer of someone who refuses to stop asking is one of the most powerful forces I have ever created in human beings, and I honor it enormously, and I respond to it with everything I have. Your persistent prayer is one of your greatest weapons in this fight. Do not put it down. Here's the second thing. The moments of worship in the middle of the battle are not just emotionally comforting, they are strategically significant. When you choose to worship me in the middle of a circumstance that is giving you every reason not to, you are making a declaration with your life about who you believe is ultimately in control of the situation. You are saying, with your actions, that the circumstances do not get to determine your spiritual posture. You are saying that regardless of what is happening around you, you have decided where your confidence is placed, and that confidence is not in your circumstances, but in the one who holds your circumstances in his hands. And that declaration, made in the middle of difficulty, is more powerful than a declaration made when everything is going well, because faith that stands in the storm is the faith that moves me. Worship in the middle of the fight. Not because it will immediately make the fight easier, but because it positions you correctly in the fight, and because it is true, and truth declared in the middle of a lie-filled battle is one of the most powerful weapons you carry. When Jehoshaphat sent the worshippers out ahead of the army, the worship was not a performance. It was a declaration of who held the victory, made before the victory was visible. And the declaration of who held the victory, made in faith before it was visible, released the power that made it visible. Worship before the breakthrough is not naive. It is the posture that releases the breakthrough. Here is the third thing. The word I have given you is not just inspirational text. It is the living foundation on which you stand. And in the moments when everything around you is shifting and unreliable, standing on what I have said is the most solid place you can be. Go back to the specific promises that I have spoken over your life. Not just the general ones, but the specific ones, the ones that came to you in moments when I was speaking directly into your situation, the ones that you wrote down because they felt too important to let slip through, the ones that your spirit recognized as mine when you first received them. Go back to those. Read them again. Remind yourself of what I said. Not to try to work yourself up into a feeling, but to reinstate the truth as the foundation under your feet when the circumstances have been actively working to erode it. The word holds you when the feelings have nothing to give. Stand on it. Something has been quietly operating in the background of your situation, something you may not have put into words, but that I have seen shaping the way you are experiencing this season. Somewhere along the way, possibly gradually, possibly in a single moment of significant disappointment, you began to carry a small but heavy question. Am I still covered? Not just the intellectual question of whether my promises apply to you, but the felt question, the body question, the question that lives below conscious thought and colors everything from there. Have I moved out from under the covering? Have I made a mistake or accumulated enough failures that the protection has a gap in it now? Is there something about my specific situation that makes the good things I have seen happen for other people less likely to happen for me? I want to answer that question directly, without hedging, without qualification. You are covered. Fully, completely, without gap, without the holes that failure and imperfection and accumulated struggle might seem to create. The covering I provide for the people who are mine is not maintained by their performance. It is maintained by my faithfulness. And my faithfulness is not something that fluctuates based on what you do or do not do. I am faithful because it is my nature to be faithful, and my nature does not change in response to your behavior. My nature remains constant. My commitment to you remains constant. My covering remains constant. You have not fallen out from under it, not through the failures you are ashamed of, not through the doubts you have entertained, not through the seasons where your faith was smaller than you wanted it to be, not through the moments where you pulled away from me out of disappointment or confusion or pain, not through any of it. Because the covering I extend over the people I love is not a reward for consistent spiritual performance. It is a gift, freely given, freely maintained, not earned, and therefore not capable of being unearned. You are mine, and what is mine is covered. Full stop. Let me also speak directly to the specific fears that have been most active in your life during this season. Because I think there are a few specific fears that have been doing significant damage to your ability to keep walking with confidence, and I want to address them by name, rather than just speaking about fear in the abstract. The fear that you are not going to make it, that the distance is too great and the resources are too few and the obstacles are too many, and no matter how hard you fight, the outcome has already been decided against you. That fear is a liar. I want to say that plainly and without softening it. That fear is a liar, and it is telling you a story about your situation that contradicts every true thing I have ever said about who I am and what I do for the people who walk with me. The outcome of your situation has not been decided against you. The outcome of your situation was decided before you ever entered it, and it was decided by me, and what I decided is that the things I have promised you will come to pass, that the plans I have for you will not be stopped, that the enemy who is opposing you does not have the final word over your life. I have the final word, and my word is life. The fear that you have failed too many times to still be a candidate for the good things I have for you. That somehow the accumulation of your mistakes has used up whatever favor you once had, and now you are on your own, running on empty, with nothing left to draw from in my direction. That fear is also a liar. Your failures have not disqualified you. Your mistakes have not spent your grace account down to zero. The mercy I have for you does not run out. The grace I give does not have a lifetime limit. Every time you come to me with a genuine heart, the mercy is new. Every single time. I am not keeping score of what you have done wrong and waiting for you to reach a number that puts you outside of my help. I am not that God. I am the God who looks at where you are right now and says, "Come, Just come. Come with everything you have and everything you have done and everything you are ashamed of and everything you are afraid of, and come to me, and I will cover it, all of it, and I will give you what you need to go forward from here. The fear that you are fighting alone, that somewhere along the way, I stopped being present in your situation and you are carrying this road by yourself. That fear is the most dangerous lie of all because it removes you from the only source of strength that can actually sustain you through what you are facing. I have not left. I have never left. I have not looked away from your situation for a single moment. I have not gone to help someone else and left you unattended. I am here. I have been here through every step of this road, and I will be here for every step of the road that remains. You are not carrying this alone. You are walking with me, and when the weight is more than you can carry, I am carrying you. These fears are real. I am not dismissing them, but they are not true. And I need you to know the difference between a feeling that is real and a truth that is actual, because the enemy specializes in giving you feelings that feel so true that you mistake them for reality. The feeling of being alone is real. The truth that you are alone is false. The feeling of being too weak to continue is real. The truth that you have no strength available to you is false. The feeling that you are not going to make it is real. The truth that the outcome is already decided against you is false. Hold on to the truth, even when the feeling is louder, even when the feeling is more present, even when the feeling has evidence behind it that the truth seems to lack. The truth is stronger than the feeling, and the truth is the thing that will carry you through. The road ahead deserves to be seen differently than you have been seeing it. You have been looking at what lies ahead on this road and seeing more of what has already been, more difficulty, more resistance, more of the same weariness that has been wearing on you through this season. And I understand why you see it that way, because that is what the road behind you has looked like. And when you are deep in a hard season, it is easy to project that hardness onto everything you see ahead. But that is not what lies ahead. Not entirely, not the way you are imagining it. Yes, there is more road to walk. I am not going to promise you that the journey from here to the destination is flat and easy and free of the kind of difficulty you have already been through. The road still goes through terrain that will require everything I have been building in you. But here is what I want you to understand about the road ahead. You will not be walking it as the same person who entered this season. You have been changed by what you have walked through. You have been strengthened by what you have endured. You have been deepened by what you have carried. And the person who walks the next section of this road is someone with capacities they did not have at the beginning of this section. Someone with a faith that has been tested and found true. Someone with a relationship with me that has been forged in the fire and is therefore more solid and unshakable than it has ever been before. You are better equipped for what comes next than you were for what came before. And what is waiting ahead on this road is more than just the continuation of the struggle. What is waiting ahead is the opening up of things that have been closed, the breakthrough that your faithfulness has been building toward, the answered prayers that have been accumulating while the timing was being perfected, the doors that are about to swing wide in ways that will make you understand why I kept them shut for as long as I did, the provision that is already on its way to you and will arrive at the exact moment when it is needed, not a day too late, not a resource short, the relationships that are going to come into your life and change it in ways you cannot currently imagine, the seasons of rest that are going to feel so good after all the fighting that you will look back on this hard road and understand, at a level you cannot reach yet, why every step of it was necessary. I want you to begin to look ahead on this road with expectation rather than dread, not because I am asking you to pretend that difficulty does not exist, but because the expectation is actually more accurate than the dread. The dread is based on what the road behind you has looked like. The expectation is based on what I have promised, and my promises are more reliable than your experience, because my promises are made by someone who cannot lie and who has the power to bring about everything he has ever said. So let the expectation begin to rise. Let the hope begin to rebuild. Let the part of you that has been holding back from fully believing because you are afraid of another disappointment begin to loosen its grip, because I am not going to disappoint you in the end. The story I am writing for your life does not end in defeat. It does not end with the enemy winning. It does not end with you walking off this road broken and empty-handed. The story I am writing for your life ends with you standing in the fullness of what I promised you, in the completeness of what I planned for you, in the overwhelming abundance of everything I prepared before you were ever born. That is where this road goes, and I need you to keep walking. I am going to be honest with you about something now, because I think you can handle it, and because I think you need to hear it. The things you have been praying about, the specific needs, the specific desires, the specific situations where you have been asking me to intervene. I hear every one of those prayers. I want to be clear about that. Not one of them has gone unheard. Not one of them has been too small or too large or too complicated for me to hold. I hear them all. And I'm working on all of them. But I want to be honest with you about the fact that some of what I am doing in your situation is happening in dimensions you cannot see, in timelines that do not match your preferred timeline, in ways that look nothing like what you expected when you first started praying those prayers. Some of what I am doing is invisible right now. That is true. And I know that the invisibility is one of the hardest things to endure, because your eyes look for evidence of movement, and when the evidence is not visible, it is easy to conclude that the movement has stopped. But the movement has not stopped. I am never working in your situation. The invisibility is not inactivity. It is the activity of a God who does much of his most significant work in the unseen, in the realm of the spirit, where things are arranged and positioned and set in motion long before they become visible in the natural. And some of what I am doing in your situation involves the process of preparing you to receive what I have for you, not because I am withholding it as punishment, or because there are conditions you have to meet before I release it, but because some of what I have for you requires a version of you that is not yet here. The strength you are building in this season, the depth of faith, the clarity of vision, the rootedness that does not shake, all of that is necessary for you to carry what I am bringing. If I released everything I have for you right now, today, before the formation is complete, it would be too much. The weight of the blessing would be more than the current capacity could hold. So I am building the capacity. I am expanding the container. I am making you ready to receive the fullness of what I have, and that process takes the time it takes. And I know that is hard, but I need you to trust me in it, because when it comes, it is going to be something you can hold, something you can sustain, something you can steward well. Let me speak directly about the strength I am releasing into you, not a temporary emotional boost, not a feeling that lifts for an hour and then fades when the circumstances reassert themselves. I am talking about a deep, settled, enduring strength that takes up residence in the interior of who you are and does not leave when the feeling does. The kind of strength that is still there at 2 a.m. when you cannot sleep. The kind of strength that is still there when the news is bad and the situation looks worse. The kind of strength that is still there when you are surrounded by people who have given up and are trying to convince you to do the same. The kind of strength that does not come from you and therefore cannot be taken from you, because it is sourced from something that cannot be moved. That is the strength I am pouring into you right now, and here is how I am doing it. Through every word of this message that you are receiving. through every moment that you choose to stay in my presence rather than running from it, through every prayer that you offer even when you are exhausted, through every moment of worship even when you do not feel like worshiping, through every time you open the Word and let it speak to you, through every act of obedience that costs you something, through every step of faith you take on the road ahead, even when you cannot see where it goes. I am building strength into you through the very process of the journey. And the strength I build this way is not the fragile kind. It is not the kind that collapses the moment things get hard again. It is the kind that has been tested in the fire and come through and knows from experience that the fire does not destroy the person who walks through it with me. It is the kind that says, I have been in the dark before, and the dark did not win. It is the kind that says, I have been in the storm before, and the storm did not swallow me. It is the kind that looks at the next wave coming, and instead of flinching, stands firmer because the standing has made it stronger. This is what is being built in you. This is who you are becoming. What I am going to do with what the enemy has done in your life is something you need to understand clearly, because this is where the story takes a turn that I need you to see clearly. Everything the enemy has planned against you, I am turning. Every strategy he deployed to stop you, I am using to propel you. Every trap he set for your feet, I am dismantling and using the material to build something better on the road ahead. Every weapon he formed against your life, I am reversing. This is not an optimistic interpretation of a bad situation. This is the actual, documented, historical pattern of how I work in the lives of the people who hold on to me through the hard seasons. Think about what I did with Joseph. The enemy's plan was to use his brother's jealousy to destroy him. The pit, the slave traders, the years in Egypt, the prison, all of it was designed by the enemy to take Joseph as far from his destiny as possible, to reduce him from a dreamer to a slave to a prisoner, to break him so thoroughly that the destiny I placed on his life could never come to fruition. But every step of that journey, every humiliation, every apparent defeat was actually a step toward the exact position that was required for the fulfillment of the dream. The pit positioned him for Egypt. Egypt positioned him for the palace. The prison positioned him for the throne. What looked like destruction from every angle was actually preparation from my angle, and the enemy, who thought he was defeating Joseph, was actually carrying him to his destiny one hostile step at a time. Something extraordinary is happening in your life right now. The enemy is carrying you to your destiny on a road that looks nothing like what you would have chosen, and feels nothing like what you imagined, and costs nothing less than everything. But the destination is exactly what I promised, and the person who arrives there will be exactly the person who was needed to fulfill what waits at the end of this road. Not despite the hard journey, because of it. What the enemy planned for your destruction, I am turning into your greatest testimony. And when the testimony comes, when the moment arrives where you can finally look back from the other side of this season and see the full picture of what was happening while you were in the middle of it, the story is going to be more powerful than any comfortable story could have been. Because comfortable stories inspire people in comfortable places. But stories of breakthrough after genuine hardship, of victory after real defeat looked possible, of faith that held when everything said let go, those stories reach into the places where comfortable stories cannot go. Those stories speak to the person who is in the middle of something genuinely impossible and gives them the evidence they need that the impossible is the specific territory where I do my most powerful work. Your story is going to be that kind of story. And the people who are going to be reached by your story are the people who need it most, the ones who are in the hardest places, the ones who are closest to giving up, the ones who need to see that the person who held on to me through something impossible actually made it through. Your faithfulness on this road is not just about you. It is a gift to them. The testimony that is being forged in this fire will be the light that shows someone else that the tunnel does not end in darkness. It ends in what you walked into on the other side. Keep carrying this road, not just for yourself, for them. The moments of almost quitting deserve their own attention because they have come and they will come again, and I want you to know what to do with them. A moment of almost quitting is not the same as actually quitting. The moment of almost is not failure. It is not weakness. It is not a sign that you have lost your faith or that your faith was never real. It is the evidence that the battle is real and the cost is real, and you are a genuine human being carrying genuine weight in a genuine fight. The moment of almost quitting is honest. It is the acknowledgement that what you are carrying is more than comfortable to carry. And I do not condemn honesty. What I ask you to do in the moment of almost is this: bring it to me. Do not try to push through it on your own. Do not try to manufacture the courage to keep going when the courage is genuinely depleted. Bring me the almost. Bring me the exhaustion. Bring me the I am not sure I can do this anymore. Bring me the full weight of how close to the edge you actually are. Because I can work with honest almost infinitely better than I can work with false fine. When you come to me with almost, what I pour into almost is the exact thing that turns it into kept going after all. And that is not the same as ignoring the almost. It is meeting the almost with what the almost actually needs, which is not more of what you have been trying to generate, but something entirely different that only I can provide. Every moment of almost that you have brought to me and walked through has made you stronger than you were before it. The fact that you are still here after every almost that has come before this one is the evidence. You have survived every almost that has come at you on this road, and you are going to survive this one too. Let me now speak about the waiting, because waiting is one of the most underrated forms of faith and one of the most genuinely difficult disciplines to sustain. You have been waiting for some things for a long time, not just hoping they would happen, but actively, intentionally, faithfully waiting in the posture of someone who believes the promise and is watching for its fulfillment. And the waiting has not yet resolved into the visible arrival of what you have been expecting. And the longer the waiting goes, the more it wears on something inside of you, the more the part of you that needs to see tangible evidence in order to stay confident begins to feel its grip slipping. I want to speak directly to the worn-out waiting in you. First, the waiting is not wasted. Every day of faithful expectation has been registered by me, noted, honored, factored into what I am building. The posture of patient trust is not a passive thing you do while the real action happens elsewhere. It is an active thing, a form of faith in action, and it is producing something in you that instantaneous fulfillment could never have produced. It is producing the deep steadiness of someone who has learned to hold on to hope across time, someone who has found that the ground I provide does not shift, even when the visible circumstances provide no support for the belief. That steadiness is enormously valuable. It is the kind of character that can be trusted with significant things, and I am building it in you through the waiting as much as through anything else. Second, the delay is not denial. I know you know that in theory. I need you to know it in practice, in the felt reality of your waiting, in the place where the discouragement about how long it is taking actually lives. The fact that the answer has not arrived yet is not the same as the fact that the answer is not coming. Those are two very different things, and the enemy wants you to treat them as identical so that you will give up before the arrival. Do not let him do that. The answer is coming, the fulfillment is on its way, and the timing of it is not arbitrary or careless. The timing of it is precise. It will arrive exactly when the full combination of factors that need to be in place for it to be received and stewarded and sustained are in place, not a moment before and not a moment after. Third, I see the full cost of the waiting. I know it has not been free. I know it has cost you things. Hope that had to be rebuilt after setbacks. Energy that had to be renewed after exhaustion. The social cost of continuing to believe something that the people around you have stopped believing on your behalf. I see all of it, and I'm not dismissing it. I am honoring it, and the arrival of what I have promised will not erase the cost of the waiting, but it will put it in a context that makes it comprehensible, that makes it part of the story rather than just a painful detour from it. Keep waiting. You are closer to the end of the wait than you have ever been. Let me tell you what I see when I look at your future. I want to give you a picture of what is coming, not the exact details, because even I do not always give those in advance, but the general character of what is ahead, the shape of the season that is coming after this one, the quality of what is waiting for you on the other side of the road you are walking now. What is coming is better than what has been. I want to be plain about that. The season that is coming after this one, the season that your faithfulness on this road is building toward, the season that is already being prepared while you are still in the middle of the hard one, is better, more spacious, more abundant, more full of the things you have been hoping for, and less full of the weight you have been carrying. The relief you have been needing is real, and it is coming, and it will be thorough. What is coming includes answers to prayers you have been praying for a long time. Not as compromised half answers that sort of address what you were asking, as full, clear, unmistakable responses that bear my fingerprints and cannot be explained away as coincidence or lucky circumstance. Answers that will make you understand why I asked you to wait, because the answer arriving at this particular moment, after this particular period of preparation, will be so clearly the right answer in the right way at the right time that the timing itself will feel like part of the blessing. Restoration is also coming in areas where things have been taken from you, things you lost that I am planning to return, relationships that were broken that I am in the process of healing, opportunities that seem to close that I am opening from a different angle, health that was compromised that I am restoring, financial situations that have been strained that I am about to shift. Whatever specific form the loss took in your life, I am in the business of restoration, and what I restore more thoroughly than what existed before the loss. I have never restored something and returned it in worse condition than it was when it was taken. What I restore comes back improved, strengthened, more solid than it was before. Beyond that, purposes are going to be fulfilled. The things I placed you on this earth to do that you have not yet been able to fully step into because the preparation was not complete. The ways you are meant to affect other people's lives that have not yet fully manifested because the tools were still being forged in the fire you are currently walking through. The impact you are designed to have, the reach of your life, the ripple of what you carry into the world, all of that is about to expand in ways you have not yet been able to fully envision. You are walking toward the fulfillment of your purpose. Every step on this hard road is a step toward the moment when what you were created for becomes fully visible and fully operational. And that moment is coming. It is in the road ahead of you, and you are going to reach it. I want to declare something over your life with the full authority of the God who holds your story in his hands and who has never broken a promise and who is not going to start with you. You are going to make it. Not as a possibility, not as a hope, as a certainty. The outcome of your story is not in question. What you have been fighting for is not going to be taken from you. The purposes I placed in you before you were born are not going to be stopped by the opposition you are facing in this season. The promises I have spoken over your life are going to come to pass. The breakthrough you have been believing for is going to happen. The door you have been standing in front of is going to open. The thing you have been waiting for is going to arrive. The situation that has seemed like it cannot turn around is going to turn, not because you are strong enough, Not because you did everything right, not because your faith has been unwavering and your record is spotless, but because I said so, and I am a God who keeps what He says. You are going to make it. And when you get to the other side of this, when you are standing in the season that this hard road was leading to, when you can see from the vantage point of the arrival what was happening during the journey, I need you to remember one thing above everything else. Tell the story. Tell it honestly. Tell the parts that were hard, the moments of almost quitting, the tears in the dark, the prayers that felt like they were bouncing off the ceiling, the times when you were not sure you had enough faith to keep going. Tell all of it, because the people who need to hear your story most are not the people who need a story about easy victory. They are the people who need a story about held-on faith that went through the hardest places and came out on the other side. Those are the people who will be changed by what you carry, and you are going to have so much to carry when you reach the destination. Fight on. The destination is real. The road is worth walking. The breakthrough is coming, and the God who is walking this road with you is not going to let you fall short of where the road is going. You are a fighter. You are covered. You are equipped. You are accompanied. You are expected, and you are going to make it. There is more I need to say to you, and I do not want to rush past any of it, and I do not want to rush past any of it. What I have to give you today is not a short message. It is a long, thorough, complete equipping for the road ahead, and every section of it matters. So stay with me. Do not pull away from this conversation before I have finished, because the part that changes everything for you may be the part that is still coming. Let me talk to you about your identity on this road, not your circumstances, not what has happened to you, or what has been done against you. Your identity, who you actually are in the context of the battle you are in, because I have noticed that the extended difficulty of this season has slowly been reshaping the way you see yourself, and the reshaping has not been going in the right direction, and I need to address it directly. When you entered this season, you had a certain sense of yourself, a certain understanding of who you were in relation to me, in relation to your own strength, in relation to what you were capable of. And then the season pressed down on you, hard, over a long period of time, and slowly, without you necessarily noticing it was happening, the pressure began to compress that self-understanding into something smaller, something more diminished. Something that is not the truth of who you are, but that has started to feel like the truth because it has been pressed into you so consistently and so persistently. I want to push back on that compression. I want to restore the truth of your identity before the pressure is allowed to do any more damage to it. Here is who you are. You are someone I created with deliberate, specific, beautiful intentionality, not an accident. Not a random assembly of genetic material and circumstance that happened to result in a human being. A purposeful creation, designed from before the foundation of the world, with a specific role to play in a specific story that only you can tell in the way that I wrote it to be told. Every quality I gave you, every tendency, every passion, every natural gifting, every way you see the world that nobody else sees it quite the same way, every love that you carry, every dream that has survived the pressures of this season and is still alive somewhere inside of you. All of that was placed there by me, specifically, for the purpose of equipping you for the things I designed you to do. Nothing about you is accidental. Nothing about you is inferior to what it should be. Nothing about the way I made you requires an apology or an upgrade before you can be what I called you to be. You are exactly what I designed. The raw material is right. The gifts are present. The capacity is there. And what this season has been doing, what the enemy has been trying to do to your self-perception, is convince you that the raw material is deficient, that the gifts are inadequate, that the capacity is too limited for what the road ahead requires. That is not true. You are exactly what I need for exactly what I am doing through your life. Not a better version of you. Not a version of you that has gotten through this season without the failures and stumbles and moments of doubt. This version of you, the one that has been through the fire and is still standing, the one that is a little more worn and a little more real and a little less reliant on things that were not actually solid to begin with. This version of you is the one I designed for the next chapter, because the next chapter requires someone who has walked what you have walked, who knows what you now know, who carries what you now carry in the interior, which is something that comfort and ease and uncomplicated seasons could never have produced. So receive your identity back. Let me restore to you what the enemy has been trying to compress and diminish. You are strong, not because you have not been wounded, because you have been wounded and you are still here. You are faithful, not because your faith has never wavered, because your faith has wavered and come back, and a faith that has been tested is more genuinely rooted than one that has never been questioned. You are loved, not because you have earned it or maintained it through consistent spiritual performance, because love is what I am, and my love for you is an expression of my nature, not a response to your behavior. You are strong. You are faithful. You are loved. That is the truth of your identity. Stand in it. The silence deserves to be addressed because it has been one of the most difficult aspects of this season for you. The times when you reached out to me and did not hear back in the way you were hoping. The times when you prayed and the only thing that came back was quiet. The times when you needed a clear word, a sign, an unmistakable signal that I was there and I was listening and I was responding, and what you got instead was nothing that you could see or hear or hold on to. I want to talk to you about what was actually happening in that silence. First, the silence was not absence. I was present in every silent moment, completely present, just not communicating in the channel you were monitoring. When I am silent in the way that humans mean silence, which is when I am not sending obvious, recognizable signals through the expected channels, I am often doing something that cannot be communicated through those channels. I am working at a depth in your situation that words would not be able to describe. I am doing something in the spirit that has not yet taken a form that language can hold, and the silence is not the absence of activity. It is the presence of activity that is too deep and too significant and too carefully being done to fit into the channel of words and signs. Second, the silence was protecting you. There are things I know about your situation that if I showed you all at once, before you were ready to receive them, would have overwhelmed you. Not because they are bad things, because they are bigger than the current capacity could hold. So I have been revealing your situation to you in stages, giving you what you can carry at each point in the process, holding back the full picture until the capacity to receive the full picture is built. The silence in between revelations is not indifference, it is carefulness. It is the precision of a surgeon who knows exactly how much to reveal at each stage of the procedure, who withholds nothing because they are cruel, but who reveals strategically because they understand that the patient needs to heal in layers, and overwhelming the system all at once would be counterproductive. Third, the silence was an invitation into deeper trust, into the kind of faith that does not require constant external reassurance to remain stable, into the relationship where you know me well enough that the absence of a fresh sign does not shake your confidence in my presence, because your confidence is not built on signs. It is built on the character of the God who showed himself faithful in every previous season you have walked, who has never ultimately failed you, whose track record across the whole of your life is one of showing up, of coming through, of being present, even when the presence was not immediately legible. The silence was inviting you into that deeper place of trust, and every time you chose to hold on through the silence, you accepted the invitation, even if it did not feel like acceptance, even if it felt like just barely surviving. You accepted the invitation, That matters more than you know. Now let me talk about the people in your life who you have not been fully honest with about where you are. The ones who have asked how you are doing and received an answer that was technically true, but was not the whole truth. The ones who would want to know the real answer, but to whom you have given the edited version, the survivable version, the version that does not require them to carry your full reality alongside their own. I understand why you have done that. It comes from a genuine and generous place. You do not want to burden people. You do not want to be seen as someone who cannot handle things. You do not want the people who look to you for stability to see how unstable you actually feel. But I want to say something gentle and direct. You are not designed to carry this alone, not the full weight of it. I designed you for community, for the kind of relationships where the real things can be spoken and received and carried together. For the honest conversation that does not have to be pretty or resolved before it is shared. And when you carry the full weight of what you are carrying in private isolation, you rob yourself of something I designed to be part of your equipping for the journey, the strength that comes through genuine human community. I am not asking you to collapse onto every person you know with the full weight of your situation, discernment about who to share and how much is wisdom, not secrecy. But I am asking you to find the one or two people who are genuinely safe, who have demonstrated the capacity to hold what is real without collapsing themselves or making your disclosure about their discomfort, and to let them in, to give them the real answer when they ask how you are, to let someone else carry a piece of this road alongside you, because carrying it alone is not strength, it is unnecessary isolation. And the relief of being genuinely known, of putting down the performance of fine for a moment and just being where you actually are in the company of someone who can handle it, is something I want you to have, not as a weakness, as the gift of community that I designed human beings to give each other on the road. Let someone in, not everyone, someone. You know who it is. Gratitude is something I want to speak to you about because in a season this hard, the invitation to gratitude can feel like an insult, like being told to appreciate the view while you are drowning. So I want to be careful about how I say this. I am not asking you to be grateful for the difficulty. I am not asking you to thank me for the pain. I am not asking you to perform a positivity that is not actually true of where you are. But I am asking you to look, even in the middle of the hard season, for the things that are still true that deserve acknowledgement, not to minimize what is hard, but to ensure that what is hard does not become the only thing you can see. Because in seasons of extended difficulty, one of the most insidious things that happens is that the hard thing slowly expands in the visual field until it blocks everything else, until you cannot see anything that is not the hard thing, until the whole of your perception of your life is filtered through the lens of the difficulty, and everything is experienced through that lens. And when that happens, the true picture of your life becomes distorted in a way that feeds the discouragement rather than fighting it. So I am asking you to look, to intentionally, deliberately, sometimes against the current of your feelings, look for the things in your life that are still good, the people who are still there, the basic gifts of breath and health and ground beneath your feet, the ways that even in the hard season my provision has continued, the small mercies of ordinary days, the moments of unexpected beauty or connection or rest that have come even in the middle of the difficulty. Look for them. They are there. And acknowledging them is not the same as pretending the hard thing is not hard. It is insisting on seeing the full picture rather than only the portion that the difficulty wants you to see. Gratitude is not denial. It is resistance. It is the refusal to let the hard thing have the whole field of vision. It is the act of saying, this is real and this is also real, and both things are true at the same time, and I am not going to let the difficulty erase the good that coexists with it. Practice the gratitude, even when it takes effort. especially when it takes effort, because the effort is what makes it powerful. A gratitude that costs nothing does not do much. A gratitude that is chosen against the current of a hard season, that is deliberately practiced when the feelings are pointing in the opposite direction, that is a gratitude that genuinely changes the posture of the soul and makes room for the hope to grow, even while the difficulty is still present. Something important needs to be said about the specific nature of the strength I place in you when you fight from the posture I have been describing. When you choose to stand in the truth of who you are, rather than the diminished version the enemy has been pressing into you, when you choose to pray with persistence rather than giving into the weariness, when you choose to worship in the middle of the hard thing rather than waiting for easier circumstances to feel like worshiping, when you choose to share the real weight of where you are with safe people rather than carrying it in isolation, when you choose to practice gratitude even when the feelings are not there to make it easy, something happens in you that I want you to understand. Each of those choices is an act of war against the systems the enemy has been trying to install in your interior. Each one is a refusal to cooperate with the erosion he has been working on, and each one generates something in your interior that compounds. The strength that comes from one act of choosing the truth makes the next act of choosing the truth a little more accessible. The faith that is exercised in one moment of standing in the face of the fear makes the faith slightly stronger for the next moment. The gratitude practiced on one hard day makes the gratitude slightly easier on the next hard day. Nothing you do in this fight is isolated. Every act accumulates. Every choice compounds. And the person who has been making these choices, even imperfectly, even with a lot of stumbles along the way, is stronger today than they would have been if they hadn't made them. You are stronger than you would have been if this season hadn't come. That is one of the most true things I can say about where you are. As much as it has cost you, as much as you would not have chosen it, you are stronger today because of what you have walked through than you would have been if the road had been easier. And the strength that has been built is the kind that does not go away when this season ends. It is permanent. It is yours. It is part of who you are now, and it is going to serve you for the rest of your life in ways that you cannot yet predict, but that will become clear as the road continues. The difficult season has given you something. Even though it was not the kind of thing you would have chosen to receive, I want to say something now about the enemy's awareness of how close you are to the breakthrough, because I think understanding his strategy in this specific moment would help you recognize what is happening. When a fighter is close to winning, the opponent does not ease up. The opponent increases intensity. The opponent throws everything available in a final attempt to stop the outcome that is already leaning in the other direction. And if you have been noticing that the pressure seems to have increased rather than decreased, that the opposition seems more intense rather than less in recent days or weeks, that the attacks seem to be coming from more directions at once rather than fewer, that may not be a sign that things are getting worse in the overall trajectory of your situation. It may be a sign that you are closer to the breakthrough than the enemy can tolerate, and he is escalating because escalating is all he has left. The intensification of the opposition can be a sign of how close you are to the other side. I am not saying that is always what it means. Sometimes the intensity increases simply because the territory is hard and the road through it is steep, and those things are just true without any special prophetic meaning attached. But I am asking you to consider the possibility that what you are experiencing in this escalated form is not a sign that you are losing ground. It is a sign that the ground you are standing on is worth fighting for more desperately than ever, and the desperation of the fight against you is the evidence of the value of what you are carrying and what is waiting on the other side. Keep your ground. Do not give up the territory you have taken at such great cost. What comes after the breakthrough matters. and I think you need a picture of what you are fighting toward that is concrete enough to be genuinely motivating. After the breakthrough, there is a season of a different kind, not without its challenges, as I said, but different in character. A season where the things you fought for in this hard road begin to manifest, where the answers to the prayers that felt like they were going unanswered arrive in ways that make their arrival unmistakably my work, where the doors that were closed begin to open, where the provision that was scarce begins to flow, where the relationships that were strained begin to heal, where the health that was compromised begins to restore, where the purpose that was struggling to find expression begins to come fully alive. But more than the external things that change, which are real and significant and coming, what changes in the season after the breakthrough is internal. The internal landscape shifts. The heaviness that has been the constant companion of this season, the weight that has been in the background of every experience, the pressure that has been shaping everything you feel and think and choose, lifts. And what you discover in the lifting is something extraordinary. You're genuinely lighter. Not because the difficult things all disappeared instantly, but because something that was pressing down from the inside has been resolved, and the resolution of the internal pressure changes the experience of everything else, even the things that are still hard. You're going to feel that lifting. It is coming, and when it comes, when you feel the weight lift in a way that is unmistakable, I want you to recognize it for what it is, the arrival of the season I promised. The evidence that the road went where I said it was going, the tangible result of every step of faith you took in the dark, every prayer you prayed from exhaustion, every moment of choosing to hold on when everything said, let go. All of that is coming after the breakthrough, and the breakthrough is coming. Let me also speak about your prayer life during this stretch of the road, because I think it has changed in ways you have noticed, and some of those changes are worth understanding. When you entered this season, your prayer had a certain quality, a certain expectation, a certain freshness of faith in the conversation, and as the season has extended, you have noticed the quality of your prayer shifting. It has become more ragged sometimes, more desperate, less fluent, less confident. There are moments when you do not know what to say, when you come before me with nothing but the weight of where you are and no words to put around it. Moments when the prayer is less a conversation and more a groan, less a petition and more just a presence, just the act of showing up before me with nothing to offer but the honesty of your need. I want you to know something about those ragged, desperate, wordless prayers. They are not inferior prayers. They are not prayers I receive with less attentiveness or respond to with less power. In many ways, they are the most honest prayers I receive, the most stripped of performance, the most genuinely human, the most purely needful in a way that requires me to be the one who supplies what is missing, rather than the one who receives what the person has managed to generate. The prayer that comes from a full, confident, fluent faith is real, and I receive it. But the prayer that comes from the empty place, from the place that has nothing left to offer but the reaching itself, from the genuine, desperate need that cannot dress itself up into something more presentable, that prayer touches something in me that the other prayer does not touch in quite the same way. Do not stop praying, because the prayer has changed in quality from what it used to be. The change in quality is not a problem. It is an honest reflection of where you are. And where you are is exactly where I meet you, with everything I have. There is one more thing I want to make clear about the angel of the Lord who goes before you on this road, because I want you to know that the spiritual assistance you have is not just my presence with you. It is also the ministry of the ones I have sent on your behalf. I do not send my people out into hard battles without covering. Not just the covering of my own presence, which is the primary and most significant covering, but also the secondary covering of the angelic ministry that I have assigned to accompany my children through the significant stretches of their journeys. And I want you to know that on the road you are currently walking, you are not without that ministry. There are those who have been assigned to you who are attending to dimensions of your situation that you cannot see and that your prayers do not have to specifically address, because they are already being attended to. The protection you carry as you walk through this territory is not just the protection of my love for you, which is real and complete. It is also the active ministry of the ones I sent, who are working in the territory around you and ahead of you and behind you. You are more covered than you feel. The covering extends further than your feelings can detect, and the next time you feel exposed, the next time the sense of vulnerability presses down on you, as if you are walking through dangerous territory without protection, remember this: the protection is there whether you can feel it or not. The ministry is active whether you can see it or not, and the God who assigned that covering is not inattentive to the places where you feel most exposed. You are covered in more dimensions than you know. Let me bring everything I have been saying back to a single point, because I know that when a message is long and thorough the way this one is, there can be a tendency to receive many things and hold none of them deeply, to feel the impact of each section while it is being spoken and then lose it as the next section comes. And I do not want that to happen. I want this to land somewhere specific and stay there. So let me tell you the one thing I need you to carry away from everything I have said today. Keep fighting, not because you can see the end of the road, not because the circumstances have given you reason for confidence, not because the feelings are supporting the choice. Keep fighting because I am fighting with you and I do not lose, and what is mine does not get taken, and you are mine, and therefore what the enemy is trying to take from you, your faith, your hope, your destiny, your future, is not his to take, and he knows it, and the only way he can succeed is if you put it down voluntarily. Do not put it down. That is the one thing. Keep fighting, whatever that looks like from where you stand right now. Whatever is the next step on your specific section of this road, whatever is the next prayer, the next act of trust, the next choice to believe what I have said over what the circumstances appear to be saying, keep doing the next thing. One step, one prayer, one more act of faith, one more refusal to put down what the enemy wants you to put down. Keep fighting, because the road is going somewhere worth fighting toward, because the God who walks it with you is not losing ground, because the victory that has been declared over your life is the final word on your situation, regardless of what any other word has said or is currently saying. Keep fighting. And now, let me speak a specific blessing over your life from my throne for the road that remains. I bless your body with the strength it needs for each day that comes. Not more than a day's worth, because that is how I provide for the journey. 1 day's manna at a time, sufficient, exactly right, without excess that would spoil, and without shortage that would leave you without. Each day you will have what that day requires, not the whole road supply at once, each day's portion. I bless your mind with the clarity to know what the next step is and the peace to take it without needing to see the whole staircase, not the full revelation of everything ahead. The next step, which is all that is needed to keep moving forward on a road that I am illuminating from within. I bless your heart with the resilience to hold on to what matters when everything else is pressing against it, with the capacity to be real about the hard without being swallowed by it, with the ability to feel the full weight of this season without being defined by it, with the room to receive comfort and hope and love, even when comfort and hope and love feel like they do not fit into the place where the pain lives. I bless your spirit with the awareness of my presence, sharper and more constant than you have been experiencing it, with the sensitivity to hear my voice through the noise of what is hard, with the capacity to recognize my hand in the small things as well as the large, in the ordinary provision of daily life as well as the unmistakable miracles that are coming, with the deep knowing below the level of feeling and evidence and logic that you are not alone and never have been and never will be. I bless the road ahead of you with cleared obstacles, not the removal of all challenge, because the challenge is part of the road's purpose, and removing all of it would remove the formation that the challenge produces, but the clearing of what does not need to be there, the obstacles that the enemy placed specifically to stop your progress, the traps that were designed for your stumbling, the barriers that have no legitimate role in the story I am telling through your life, those I am clearing as you walk toward them. I bless the people ahead of you on the road with the preparation to receive you and to give what you need from them and to be what they are meant to be in your story, because the people you are going to meet in the next chapter are part of what I have prepared for this chapter, and they are being prepared for you even now, and the encounters that are coming are going to be some of the most significant gifts of this entire journey. I bless the outcome of your situation with my authority. What the enemy has been working to decide against you, I am deciding for you. What has been set up to fail, I am setting up to succeed. What has been arranged to close, I am arranging to open. The final word on your situation belongs to me, and my final word over your life is life and abundance and purpose fulfilled and love sustained and joy restored, and rest earned and enjoyed, and the evidence of my faithfulness visible in every area where the hardness of this season pressed hardest. These blessings are not wishes, they are declarations. They carry the weight of the authority of the one who has never spoken a word that did not accomplish what it was sent to accomplish. I am speaking them over your life now. Receive them, and now, let me tell you one last thing before I close. I am proud of you. I know that might be unexpected. I know that after a season of extended difficulty, it is easy to feel as if the most honest assessment of how you have done is disappointment. All the times you almost gave up, all the moments your faith wobbled, all the prayers that were less than confident, and the choices that were less than courageous, and the days that were less than what you hoped they would be. I know you carry an awareness of all of that, but I want you to know what I carry. I carry the awareness of every time you chose to come back, every time the faith wobbled and then found its footing again, every time you got up after going down, every prayer you prayed from the bottom of the tank, every moment of choosing to stay on the road when the road was demanding something you were not sure you had to give, every act of love you managed in the middle of your own pain, every bit of generosity you extended when you yourself were in need. I carry all of that, and when I look at the sum of who you have been on this road, what I feel is not disappointment. What I feel is something very much like pride. The pride of a parent watching a child navigate something genuinely difficult and come through it with the things that matter most still intact. The faith, the love, the basic orientation toward me that is the seed from which everything else grows. Those things are still there. You have carried them through this season, and that is not a small thing. I am proud of you. Keep going. There is more I want to explore with you, and I want you to receive all of it. I want to talk about the concept of being equipped for the fight, because I think there is a misunderstanding about what equipment actually means in the context of a spiritual battle, and that misunderstanding has been contributing to the sense that you are fighting at a disadvantage that you cannot overcome. People often think of being equipped for a difficult season as having the right feelings, the right level of confidence, the right amount of visible resources, the right emotional and psychological state to walk into the challenge with assurance. And when those things are not present, when the feelings are wrong and the confidence is depleted and the resources look insufficient and the emotional state is fragile rather than sturdy, the conclusion is that they are not equipped for what they are facing, that they went into the fight unprepared, that something that should have been in place before the battle was missing. But that is not how I equip the people I send into significant battles. That is not the model I use. The model I use is different, and it has been misunderstood so consistently that I want to take the time to lay it out clearly. I equip you through the battle, not before it. The preparation and the fight are the same process. The things you need to carry, what I am asking you to carry, are not things you receive before entering the difficulty and then use up during the difficulty. They are things that are generated by the difficulty itself, built in you through the act of walking through the hard thing, added to your capacity by the very demands the hard thing places on your capacity. This is why the most equipped people I have are often the ones who have walked the most difficult roads, not because they entered the road more equipped, but because the road itself was the equipping. So when you look at where you are in the middle of this fight and say, I am not equipped for this, what I need you to understand is that you are in the middle of being equipped for it. The equipping is happening right now. Every day you walk on this road is a day of being equipped. Every burden you carry and do not drop is building the carrying capacity. Every fear you face and do not run from is building the courage. Every prayer you pray from the empty place is building the prayer life that will sustain you for everything ahead. Every moment of choosing trust over the evidence is building the faith that will hold you steady in the significant things that come after this season. You are not underprepared for your life. You are in the middle of your preparation, and the preparation looks like what it is: demanding, uncomfortable, not yet complete, but it is happening. And when it is finished, when the season of formation has done its full work, what walks out of it is exactly what was needed for the road that remains. Trust the process, even when the process is hard, especially when the process is hard, because the hardness is the evidence that the process is working. I also want to say something about the way you see the people around you who do not seem to be walking through what you are walking through. The ones whose lives appear, from the outside, to be moving with more ease and more obvious blessing, and fewer of the specific obstacles that have been accumulating in your life during this season. I know that comparison happens. It is almost impossible to prevent. When you are in a hard season and the people around you are in easier seasons, the contrast becomes part of what you are managing, alongside the actual weight of what you are carrying. And I want to speak to that comparison directly, with honesty and with love. First, what you see from the outside of other people's lives is almost never the complete picture. The ease you observe in someone else's life is a selection, edited by your angle of view, by what they choose to share and what they choose to conceal, by the particular slice of their reality that happens to be visible to you. People who appear to be walking an easier road than yours are often walking their own version of a hard road that you simply cannot see from where you stand. Not always, but often. And the comparison you are doing, which pits your unedited interior experience of your own life against the edited exterior experience of someone else's life, is a comparison that was rigged before it started. You are comparing total information about yourself to partial information about someone else, and the comparison will always be unfair in that direction. Second, even when someone else's road is genuinely easier than yours right now, the ease of their road is not a statement about the relative value of your lives or the relative quality of my love for you versus them. My love for each person is complete and specific to them. I give each person the road that their particular formation requires, not a standardized difficulty level applied equally to everyone. The person on an easier road right now is not more loved than you are. They are on the road that the particular shape of their preparation requires at this particular moment. and you are on the road that the particular shape of your preparation requires at this particular moment. The roads are different because the preparations are different, not because the love is different. Third, the comparison, while understandable, is costing you something. It is taking energy that you need for the road you are actually on and redirecting it into a narrative about the road someone else is on. It is creating a grievance about the unfairness of the comparison that, while emotionally real, is not actually based on complete information and is not something that serves you on the road you are walking. I am not asking you to feel no comparisons. I am asking you to let them pass through without building a case around them. Let the observation happen. Acknowledge the feeling it generates, and then release it and come back to the actual road under your actual feet, which is going somewhere specific and significant and worth every bit of attention you can give it. Focus on your road. It is the one I designed for you, and it is going somewhere good. The shame you carry also deserves to be addressed directly, not guilt about specific things, which I addressed earlier. Shame. The deeper, more pervasive sense that there is something about who you are, not just what you have done, that is fundamentally inadequate. The feeling that other people would be shocked if they knew the real you, the inside of you, the parts that are not presentable. The sense that the gap between who you appear to be and who you actually are is large enough to be dangerous, large enough that if the right person saw through it, the whole structure would collapse. The low-grade sense of being, at some deep level, not quite enough. That is shame, and it is one of the most corrosive things that lives in a human soul, not because what it points to is true, but because it is so deeply embedded that it feels true, because it speaks in a voice that sounds like your own, because it uses your own knowledge of your own interior life as its evidence, and the evidence feels irrefutable from the inside. But I need to say something to that shame very clearly. It is not telling the truth. The gap between who you appear to be and who you actually are is not dangerous. It is human. Every person who has ever lived carries the same gap. The difference between the exterior that is visible and the interior that is not. The distance between the performance and the reality. The gap is not evidence of a uniquely defective soul. It is evidence of a genuinely human one. You are not the only person who carries things inside that the people around you do not see. You are not uniquely broken in ways that set you apart from everyone else. You are human in the full, complex, contradictory, imperfect, genuinely capable of beauty and genuinely prone to failure way that every human being is. And here is the most important thing I can say about that interior you have been hiding. I have seen it. All of it. Not a portion, not the presentable parts. Everything. The things you are most ashamed of, the thoughts you have never shared with anyone, the failures that you have managed to keep private, the fears that you have never spoken aloud, the desires that you have not known what to do with, the ways you have fallen short of who you wanted to be that are known only to you. I have seen all of it. I have always seen all of it, and I am still here, still fully committed. Still without a single reservation about my love for you and my investment in your story. Not despite what I have seen, having seen all of it. My love for you is not based on incomplete information that a fuller view would correct. It is based on a complete view, and the complete view has not diminished it by a single measure. You do not have to hide from me. There is nothing left to hide. And the love that remains after seeing everything is the most reliable love you will ever know, because it is the only love that is fully informed and fully committed at the same time. Bring the shame out of the dark, not necessarily to the people around you, though trusted community matters. Bring it to me. Let me meet it with what it has never encountered before. Complete, fully informed, absolutely unshaken love. Let me show you that the thing you thought was most likely to drive me away is not capable of driving me away. Let me show you that my love for you exists in the full knowledge of everything you are, not in the partial knowledge of the edited version you have been showing the world. Come to me as you actually are. That is always the invitation. Come as you actually are. The specific weapons I have given you for this fight, because I think they deserve more thorough attention than they usually receive. The first weapon is my word, not just a book, not just historical text or inspirational literature, though it is those things. My living word. The document of my character, my promises, my ways, my faithfulness across the full span of human history. The record of how I have shown up in the hardest situations. The testimony of what I do for the people who walk with me through the fire. And it is alive, which means it is not static. It reads differently in different seasons because you read it with different eyes in different seasons. The verse that was one thing in an easier time is a different thing entirely in the middle of a battle that is testing what you are made of. And the word that meets you exactly where you are, that speaks precisely into the specific shape of your current need, is available every time you open the pages and invite me to meet you through them. Use this weapon, not just occasionally, every day, not as a discipline that produces guilt when you miss it, but as the access point to the source of truth that your soul requires in order to know what is real when everything around you is trying to tell you something false. Read it. Let it speak. Let it reorient the internal conversation from the one the enemy has been conducting to the one I am always trying to initiate. Let my word be what defines your reality, not the circumstances, and not the fear, and not the voices that have been arguing for your defeat. The second weapon is prayer, which I spoke about at length, so let me add only this. Prayer is not just the act of making requests. Prayer is the act of maintaining the connection that everything else flows from. The relationship between you and me is the channel through which every resource flows, and prayer is what keeps that channel open and clear. Even the prayer that feels like nothing, that produces no feeling and no evident response, is doing something. It is maintaining the connection. It is keeping the channel from closing, and a channel that is maintained even through seasons of apparent silence is a channel that is ready to carry the full force of what I am about to release when the moment comes. Keep the channel open. That is what prayer does, whatever else it does or does not produce in a given moment. The third weapon is community. I spoke about this too, but I want to come back to it because I think it is consistently underestimated. The strength that comes through genuine human community, through the kind of relationship where the real things can be said and received and carried together, is not a secondary or optional form of support. It is a primary form of strength that I designed into the fabric of human life, because I knew that the road would require it, and that attempting to walk it in isolation would extract a cost that was not necessary to pay. You are not designed to be a lone fighter. You are designed to fight alongside others, to be strengthened by their faith when yours is weak, to strengthen theirs when it is weak, to carry together what neither could carry alone. Find your people on this road, the ones who are genuinely safe, the ones who can hold real things, the ones whose faith has been tested and has held, and who therefore have something real to offer rather than just comfortable words. Find them and let them in. Not to perform your struggle for them, but to genuinely share it. That kind of sharing is not weakness, it is wisdom, and the strength that comes from being genuinely known and genuinely accompanied by other people who are also walking with me is a form of strength that nothing else can replicate. The fourth weapon is praise and thanksgiving, which I want to distinguish from the gratitude I spoke about earlier, though they are related. Praise is the deliberate act of acknowledging who I am, not just what I have done, of speaking the truth of my character into the atmosphere of your situation, of declaring out loud, in the middle of whatever you are walking through, that I am good, that I am faithful, that I am powerful, that I am present, that I am for you, that nothing about your situation is outside of my knowledge or beyond my capacity. Praise is the declaration that resets the atmosphere around you from the one the enemy has been trying to establish to the one that is actually true. And it is one of the most disorienting things you can do to the enemy, because the enemy has been constructing a narrative around your situation that he has been hoping will take root in you. And when you begin to praise in the middle of that narrative, what you are doing is directly dismantling it, replacing the story he has been telling with the truth of who I am and what I do. And he cannot maintain his campaign in an atmosphere of genuine praise. It is one of the tools he has no counter for, not because the praise is magic, but because the praise is true, and the truth, spoken with conviction in the presence of lies, is more powerful than any lie ever spoken. Praise. Even when it is hard, especially when it is hard, because the praise that rises from a hard place has a weight that praise from a comfortable place does not carry. It has been earned, and it carries the authority of something that is genuinely chosen over against the alternatives, which is always more powerful than something that costs nothing. Use these weapons. They are yours. They were given to you, and they are effective. What is coming after this season also deserves to be seen as clearly as I can show you, as I can give you, of what the other side of this road looks like. The other side of this road is a place of restored relationships. The connections that have frayed under the pressure of this season, the friendships that could not sustain the weight of what you have been carrying, the family relationships that have been strained by the difficulty. These are things I am healing even now, in the unseen, bringing people to the understandings and the choices that will make restoration possible when the timing is right. Not all of them will be restored. Some were removed from your life for reasons that will become clear. But the ones that were meant to continue, the ones that have a role in the next chapter of your story, those are being prepared for the reconnection that is coming. Greater freedom than you have ever known is also waiting on the other side of this road. The things that have been binding you in this season, the fears that have limited your range of movement, the anxieties that have made the field of what feels possible smaller than it was designed to be, the false beliefs that have been operating as constraints on what you allow yourself to reach for, those are being broken in this season. The fire burns chains. And when you come out of the fire, you will discover that some of the things that felt like permanent constraints were actually temporary, and that the freedom on the other side of the fire is a larger freedom than you experienced before you went in. Renewed purpose is also part of what waits on the other side of this road. The clearest, most focused, most energized sense of what you are on this earth to do and how to do it that you have ever experienced. Because this season has burned away the things that were distracting you from the essential, the noise, the peripheral pursuits, the things that seemed important before the fire came through, and that were revealed by the fire to be things that were consuming resources without producing what was worth producing. What remains after the fire is the thing that was always worth doing, the core, the essential. The thing that is so aligned with who I created you to be, that pursuing it does not feel like effort in the way that other things feel like effort. It feels like coming home. That clarity is coming. The fire is producing it right now. A testimony that will reach further than you can currently imagine is also waiting for you beyond this road. Your story, the story of what you walked through on this road, and what I did in you through it, and how the breakthrough came, and what came after the breakthrough, that story is going to matter to more people than you will ever be able to count. because stories of genuine breakthrough, stories that come from people who were genuinely in the hard place and genuinely came through, carry a weight and an authority that nothing else can manufacture. They speak to the person in the hard place in a way that theory never speaks. They say, "It is real, the breakthrough is real, I was there and I came through and you can too." And that message, delivered by someone who actually lived it, is one of the most powerful things I use in the world. Your testimony is going to matter. The things you are walking through right now are going to be part of a story that reaches people who are in their own hard seasons, people who are in their own moments of almost, people who need to see that the fight can be won and the road can be walked all the way to the destination, and the destination is worth what the road costs to reach. Your story is going to be that evidence for them, so fight on. Not just for yourself, for them. The peace that is available to you in the middle of this battle is something I want to describe carefully. Not the peace that comes when the battle is over, the peace that exists inside the battle. The peace that is not a product of the circumstances settling into something manageable, but is a product of something else entirely, of a different relationship with the circumstances, of a different perspective on the battle, of a deeper rootedness than the battle can reach. I offer you this peace. Not as a future thing, as a present thing, something that you can receive right now in the middle of the fight, before the fight resolves, as a companion to the difficulty rather than a replacement for it. What this peace is, at its core, is the settled certainty that the outcome of your life is in hands that are better than yours. That the one who holds the final word over your situation is not indifferent, not overwhelmed, not working with limited resources or incomplete information or uncertain intentions. That the God who is over your situation is for you, is powerful, is faithful, and is actively engaged. And that no combination of circumstances, no level of opposition, no accumulation of difficulty changes any of those things. They remain true regardless of what is happening around you. They are the constant beneath the variable, and peace, the kind I am offering, is what happens when your soul settles into those constants and stops being entirely dependent on the variables for its stability. This peace does not require the fighting to stop. It lives inside the fighting. It allows you to fight from a place of stability rather than a place of desperation. It is not the absence of awareness of how hard things are. It is the presence of the certainty of who holds things. And it makes a profound difference in how the hard road is walked. Open yourself to receive this peace now, not by trying to feel it first, by choosing to believe the truths that it is founded on, by agreeing with what I have said about who I am and what I am doing in your situation, by deciding, as an act of will rather than an act of feeling, that the constants are more reliable than the variables, and then by staying in that decision long enough for the peace to follow the choice. Because peace follows the right beliefs, not the other way around. You do not wait to feel peaceful before you believe the right things. You believe the right things, and the peace follows the believing. Believe, let the peace follow. It will. I want to also speak about what it means to be truly seen and truly known by me, because I think this reality has not yet landed in you at the depth where it could do its greatest work. There are people in your life who know you well, who have seen significant portions of your story, who have been present through important chapters, who love you and who you love, and being known by them is a genuine gift, and I value what it means in your life. But even the people who know you best know you partially. They know the version of you that has been available to them, the version that showed up in the specific moments they were present for, the version that communicates through language, which always approximates the interior but never fully captures it, the version that is, inevitably, partly shaped by what you were willing to show them and what you were not. I know the version that was never shaped, the interior that has never been translated into language, the self that exists before expression, before editing, before the selection of what to share and what to keep hidden. I know the you that you do not fully know yourself, the deep patterns of who you are that operate below conscious awareness, the specific fingerprint of your soul that is unlike any other soul that has ever been created. I know what you carry. I know what you long for. I know what frightens you at a level deeper than the fears you can name. I know the dreams that live in places you have not let them live in consciousness, because consciousness has learned to be skeptical of dreams in seasons of difficulty. I know all of it, and I care about all of it. Not with a general, diffuse care that covers all human beings equally, with the specific, focused, detailed care of someone who designed you and knows the design and loves the design in its specificity, not just its general humanity. You are not anonymous to me. You are not one of billions indistinguishable from each other in the vast scale of my creation. You are specific, known, named, carried, and the care I have for you is as specific and particular as your specific particular existence. I care about the exact things you are carrying, the exact fears that have been most present, the exact hopes that have been deferred, the exact places where the fight has been hardest, not in a general way. In the specific exact way that only complete knowledge makes possible. You are fully known and fully loved at the same time. That combination does not exist anywhere else. It is the gift that only I can give, and I am giving it to you right now, in this moment, in the full specificity of who you are and where you are and what you are carrying. You are seen, you are known, and you are loved exactly as you are, in full knowledge of everything that means. Let that in. Let it reach further than the surface understanding of the idea. Let it become real at the level where you actually live. You are fully known and fully loved. Right now, in the hardest season you have walked, with full knowledge of everything, you are loved. The significance of this very moment deserves to be named. The moment in which you are receiving these words. Because I do not believe moments are random, and I do not believe the timing of encounters is accidental, and I want to speak to the specific significance of why this message is reaching you at this particular point on your road. You are at a decision point, not necessarily a dramatic one, not a moment that announces itself as significant, but a real one. A moment where the path forks in a way that has lasting consequences for where the road goes from here. One direction is the direction of continuing as you have been, carrying the weight you have been carrying in the way you have been carrying it, managing the fight the way you have been managing it, with the same posture and the same strategies and the same internal narrative. And that direction, while it is not without grace, is not where the breakthrough is. The other direction is the direction I have been pointing you toward in everything I have said today. The direction of the shifted posture, the fought from victory rather than fought toward survival posture, the posture of the deep peace that lives inside the battle rather than waiting for the battle to end, the posture of the fully known and fully loved soul who stops performing for the approval that has already been unconditionally given, the posture of the fighter who keeps fighting, not because they have to in order to not lose, but because the fight is going somewhere specific and worthy, and the God who called them to it is walking it with them every step of the way. This message reached you at this moment because you are at this fork, and I wanted to speak into it before you made the turn without fully understanding what the choice was. So here is the choice, stated as plainly as I can state it. Choose the posture I have been describing, not the circumstances. Those are not fully in your control, not the feelings. Those will follow the posture, but they are not the posture itself. The posture, the internal orientation, the decision about how you are going to understand what is happening in your life, and how you are going to relate to the one who is with you in it. Choose the posture of the fighter who fights from victory, who carries the peace that lives inside the battle, who knows they are fully known and fully loved, who understands that the hard road is going somewhere specific and worth walking to, who refuses to cooperate with the enemy's narrative about what this season means about the outcome of their story. Choose that posture right now, not when you feel it, as a decision, an act of the will, a choice, and then live in that choice. And come back to it when the circumstances and the feelings try to pull you out of it, and come back to it again and again, until the posture becomes the default, until it is the place you live rather than the place you visit, until the peace is more normal than the anxiety, until fighting from victory is more natural than fighting from survival. Choose it, and watch what I do when you choose it. The nature of endurance is something I want to address one more time, because it is one of the deepest qualities of the human spirit and one of the things I value most in the people I walk through hard roads with. Endurance is not the same as mere survival. Survival is getting through. Endurance is getting through in a way that produces something. Survival is white-knuckling from one moment to the next. Endurance is engaging with the hard thing in a way that yields growth, yields depth, yields the kind of refined character that only the sustained pressure of a genuine challenge can produce. Survival exits the season depleted. Endurance exits the season deposited with something that was not there at the beginning. What I am asking of you is not survival. I am asking for endurance. The engaged, active, choosing over and over again kind of staying on the road that produces something in the walking of it. Not just making it through, making something of what you are walking through. Not because the making requires suffering, but because the suffering that has come is not going to be wasted if you will engage with it rather than simply endure it. How do you engage rather than simply endure? You ask what it is producing. You look for what is being built. You pay attention to the ways you are different from who you were when the season started, the ways in which the pressure has produced something in you rather than simply taken something from you. You look for the evidence of the refining rather than only the evidence of the burning, and you cooperate with what is being built. You open yourself to the formation rather than simply bracing against the discomfort of the process. This shift from survival to endurance is one of the most significant things you can do in the middle of a hard season, and it is available to you right now. It is not a new thing you need to acquire. It is a posture you can choose, the posture of the person who is not just getting through, but is being built through. The posture of someone who trusts the builder, who trusts the process, who trusts that what is being made is worth the making, and that the God who is making it knows what he is doing. Choose endurance over survival. Be built by this season rather than merely surviving it, and carry out of it what the season was always designed to produce in you, the refined, rooted, tested, true version of who you were created to be. That is the invitation. That is what is available to you right now in the middle of everything you are walking through. Take it. And as you take it, I want you to understand what you are agreeing to, because I think clarity about the agreement matters. When you choose endurance over survival, when you choose the posture of the one who is being built rather than merely the one who is getting through, you are not agreeing to make the hard thing easier than it is. You are not signing up for a spiritual strategy that will anesthetize the pain or remove the cost of the road. You are agreeing to something different. You are agreeing to let the hard thing do what it was designed to do in you, which means you are agreeing to be changed by it in the specific ways that the specific difficulty of this specific season is designed to produce. That is a real commitment. It costs something. And I want to honor the fact that it costs something by not presenting it as if it costs nothing. It costs your preference for a different road. It costs the energy of engagement where survival would allow passive endurance. It costs the willingness to look at the hard thing not only as something you are hoping will end, but as something you are learning to work with, to find meaning in, to cooperate with in the production of what I am making. That cost is real, and you do not have to pretend it is not. But what is gained in exchange for that cost is also real. What is gained is a life that is not just survived but is actually lived in a way that produces something. A testimony that is not just a report of having gotten through, but a map of a path that someone else can follow. A depth of character that does not exist in people who have only walked easy roads. A knowledge of me that is not theoretical but is lived, tested, proven in the fire, known the way you can only know something that you have needed absolutely, and a foundation in your spirit that is more solid than anything a comfortable life could have built, because you know from experience, not from belief alone, that I am with you in the hardest places, that my faithfulness holds in the fire, that the road I put you on goes somewhere worth the walking. That is what the endurance produces. That is what is on the other side of choosing it. So choose it with full knowledge of what the choice costs and what the choice yields. Choose endurance. Let this season build in you what it was designed to build, and carry out of it into the next chapter of your story, the most refined, the most real, the most genuinely equipped version of who you have ever been. I am with you in the choosing, and I will be with you in the walking of everything that the choice requires, every step of it, all the way to the destination. Before you go, I want to leave you with one final image. Picture a soldier who has been fighting a long campaign, not a short skirmish that ends in a day, but a sustained, grinding campaign that has taken months, that has extracted everything the soldier had to give, that has tested every conviction and every discipline and every last reserve of physical and emotional and spiritual endurance. Picture that soldier in the darkest stretch of the campaign, the stretch where the enemy seems strongest and the end seems furthest and the resources are most depleted. Now picture who is standing next to that soldier, not watching from a distance, not sending encouragement from the rear, standing right there, in the middle of the hardest stretch, with all of the resources of the commanding general available to that one soldier, committed to the outcome of that one fight, unwilling to leave until the victory is fully secured. That is where I am. That is who I am in relation to you right now. You are that soldier, and I am the one standing next to you, and I am not leaving until the victory is won. Go now. Fight from there. I am with you. I have always been with you. I will be with you to the end of the road, and at the destination that waits beyond it. Nothing can separate you from the love and presence of the God who chose you, named you, equipped you, and is walking this road with you today and every day that follows. You are not alone. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are mine, and what is mine I keep, and you are going to make it all the way through. You were created for more than this hard season. The hard season is real and it matters, and I am in it with you and I am using it, and none of it is wasted. But it is not the whole story. It is one chapter, a significant, formative, essential chapter, but a chapter. And after this chapter comes the next one, and the next one is better. And after that comes the one after, which is better still. And the full arc of the story I am telling through your life is a story of someone who walked through genuine difficulty with genuine faith and found, at every stage and in every season, that the God who promised to be with them kept every promise, that the road that looked impossible from the middle of it was absolutely navigable from the perspective of someone who walked it all the way through, and that the destination that waited at the end of the hard road was everything I said it would be. and more than they could have imagined from the beginning. That is your story. That is where it is going. That is what is waiting for you. Keep fighting. The destination is worth every hard step it takes to reach it, and I will be with you every single step of the way. Amen. If this word reached you when you needed it most, that was not an accident. Nothing about how you arrived here was coincidental. Before you leave, do one thing. Share this message with someone who is close to giving up, someone who needs to know that the God who walks with us through the hardest roads does not abandon us before the breakthrough. Like this video so others fighting the same fight can find it, and leave a comment below with one word, one declaration. I am still standing. Your declaration matters. It will be seen by someone who needs to see it. You are a carrier of this word now. Carry it well.